Hello again, our most valued student. My name is Confident and welcome to EgoRulenTech's 24-minute lesson. This lesson is a continuation on factors and we are continuing with the remainder and factor theorem. In the previous lesson, we looked at the factor theorem and we said if it is a factor, you must always equate for f of x must be equal to 0. And then if it's a remainder, if it does not give you a 0, it means it's a remainder. That is the remainder theorem. Now let us continue with the previous example that we're doing, and then we move it from then. After we've done that, we will go on to look at completing a square. Now quickly, they gave us f of x. We did this one previously, but we did not finish it. It was 16 x cubed minus px squared plus 12x plus 3. And they are telling you that it is divided by 2x minus 1. And what must you equate to? You equate that to 0. Then you solve for x. 2x is equal to 1. Then you divide both sides by 2. Then you will have x is equal to 1 over 2. After you have done that, then you are going to take f of 1 over 2 is equal to, then where there is x, you are now going to put 1 over 2 minus p 1 over 2 squared plus 12 1 over 2 plus 3. And now if you simplify that with a calculator, if you simplify with a calculator, 16 times 1 over 2 cubed, you'll get a 2. P half squared, you'll get 1 over 4 p, and 12 half, you've got 6 plus 3. Now this is equal to, if you add the numbers, 2 plus 6 plus 3, you're going to get 2 plus 6 plus 3. You're going to get 11 minus 1 over 4 p. This is f of half. Now they also told you that the remainder is 7. So in other words, what they are trying to tell you that f of, let me use a different pen in this case, they are telling you that if you put f of half, we expect you to get minus 7 as a remainder. So they are expecting you, if you put f of half and you'll get minus 7 as a remainder. What does it mean? It means you must form up an equation, because this is f of half and that is f of half. Therefore, it means 11 minus 1 over 4p is equal to minus 7. You equate the two because the two are equal, so you equate also on the right hand side. So 11 minus 1 over 4p, if I can write it here in a new page, 11 minus 1 over 4p is equal to minus 7. Then the simple thing you need to do is to solve for p. You can take 11 on the other side. You will have minus 1 over 4p is equal to minus 7 minus 11. So if you do that, you are going to save 1 over 4 minus 1 over 4p is equal to minus 18. You divide both sides by minus 1 over 4 over minus 1 over 4. If you divide, you're going to get p is equal to, divided by negative 1 over 4. From my calculator, you are going to get p is equal to 72. So that is how you solve and find the value of p. Let us move on and look at another one similar. It says, calculate the value of a if x plus 3 is a factor of that. The method is same. You just say, let f of x be equal to 2x cubed plus x squared minus 5x minus a. Now they are telling you x plus 3 is a factor now. So it means x plus 3 is equal to 0. Remember, they're saying it's a factor. Therefore, x is equal to negative 3. So what do they mean if they're saying it's a factor? they are saying if you put f of minus 3, you must get a remainder of 0. Now let's put it in f of x. So we're going to put f of minus 3. This is equal to 2. What do we have? Minus 3 cubed plus minus 3 squared minus 5 minus 3 minus a. And they're telling us because it's a factor, we must get a 0. If you simplify all the numbers and you add with a calculator, I'm not going to go stage by stage, but if you add that and that and that, you are going to have minus 30 minus a is equal to 0. Now, if you take 30 to the other side, we are going to get minus a is equal to a positive 30. You divide both sides by a negative 1. Remember, you're solving for a. Therefore, a is equal to negative 30. That's how you solve that one. Now, the next one says, determine the value of m if f of x is equal to 6x cubed plus 4x squared plus mx plus 3 gives a remainder of 6 when divided by 2x plus 1. This is the same method now. I think you've caught up with it, so I'm going to solve it quicker. So it says, it is saying, remember 2x plus 1 is a factor, so you are going to equate that to 0. So 2x is equal to minus 1. Divide that by 2, you're going to have x is equal to minus half. Now, if we come to our f of x, they told us that f of x is equal to 6x cubed plus 4x squared plus mx plus 3. Now we are going to have now f of minus half is equal to 6. So what am I having now? It's minus half cubed plus 4 minus half squared plus mx plus m. Remember, x is what? M minus half plus 3. So this is what you're going to have if you finalize it. But remember, they told us that the remainder is 6. So you're going to have 13 over 4 minus 1 over 2m is equal to 6. Then the next thing is for you to solve for m, whereby you're going to have negative 1 over 2m is equal to 6 minus is minus 13 over 4. Therefore, minus half m is equal to, so it's 6 minus 13 over 4, it's 11 over 4. If you now find it, m therefore will be equal to, if I do it right, 1 over 2, I'm using my calculator, you are going to get, I think you're going to get negative 11 over 4, 11 over 2, sorry, negative 11 over 2 as the value of m. So that's how you solve it. Now we are done with looking at a remainder and factor theorem again. I say go back to the concept, look at the concept. It's one of the simplest things that you can use, especially when you're given an exam question. Now let us look at the next part, which says completing a square. What do they mean by completing a square? There are certain steps that I want you to follow when you are completing a square. Now this is an expression, because it's not an equation, it's just an expression. So when they're saying completing a square, they want at the end of the day to have a number that is like that, which is a square. By a square, they mean that. So what do you mean when they say completing a square? If you are given this number x squared plus 14x minus 32. Now, the key thing to focus on, I will repeat again, the key things to focus on is the number here and the number here. Those are the key things to focus on. Every time the number here must be 1. Always. And then this number, we call it the coefficient of x. So this number, the coefficient of x squared, we call it coefficient of x squared, must always be 1. Here, it must always be 1. If the number is not a 1, I'll show you the trick on what to do so that you can make it a 1. But this one doesn't matter, it's just the coefficient of x squared. It can be any number, but it is the number that we're going to use when we are completing a square. So now let us go on and complete a square. It says x squared plus 14x minus 32. Let's complete a square there. X squared plus 14x minus 32. So what you do is you're going to take the x squared and then you're going to write it as it is plus 14x. Now you are going to say plus half the coefficient of x. Remember, we said the number which is the coefficient of x with its sign, it was half of plus 14 there. Let me write it, I'm clumsy there. Half of plus 1/4, half of 14, remember, half of 14, and then after that you square it. I'm writing in not half of the positive 14, and then you put a square. Now you are going to say minus 32. So look at it, all of a sudden we have introduced this half of plus 14x squared. According to this equation, it's no longer balancing because we have just added something. So now to balance back the equation so that it can go back to the original, because we added it, we say it plus, we can take it out again as half of plus 14 squared. Someone is saying, why are we taking out in the first case when we added it? This is part of the method. Why? Because I want you to look at these two. Now we have got a square there, and you are introducing a square, as I said. Something wrong that I did though, something wrong that I did, just pay attention. The way the half is put is in the wrong way. Please be very careful, don't do the mistake I'm doing. It is supposed to be this. It's half times inside. Again, on the other side, the half must be inside. It's half times inside. The half must be inside. Don't forget, the half must be inside. So when you simplify it, you are going to have x squared plus 14x plus, don't use a calculator on the square, just simplify the inside. The inside, half of 14 is 7. 7 what? 7 squared. So it's 7 squared minus 32 minus 7 squared. You see, our 7 squared plus 7 squared minus 7 squared will still give us a 0. So when you take them off, you will still remain with the original version. But as I said, the important thing is these two squares. So how to write it now? You can say now x plus 7 squared. You see, I took the 2, the x with the square and the 7 with its sign positive, minus 32 minus 49, which is x plus 7 squared. If I use my calculator on minus 32 minus 49, I get minus 81. I have completed a square. You can prove it and multiply it back. It will still give you x squared plus 14x minus 32. Let's just try it. We are saying x plus 7. It's a square, so it's twice x plus 7, x plus 7 minus 81. This will be equal to x squared plus 7x plus 7x plus 49 minus 81. This will be equal to x squared plus 14x. 49 minus 81 is minus 32, which is the original one that we studied in the first case. Hence, it will always go to the original. But we have completed a square. What do you mean by the square? You now have x plus 7 squared minus 81. Now, this version now says solve for x by completing a square in the x squared plus 14x minus 32. Remember, we did have it. It's the previous example that we did. It was x squared plus 14x minus 32. So the method does not change. We are still following the same method by saying, remember, it was x squared plus 14x minus 32 now equal to 0. When we completed a square, we got x plus 7 squared minus 81. So we got x plus 7 squared minus 81. Now we are just equating that to 0. Take 81 to jump the sign. This 81, make it jump the sign. What you are going to have is x plus 7 squared is equal to 81. Now, how do you continue after this? You are going to square root both sides. So you are going to find the square root of x plus 7 squared. What you do on the left, you do on the right, square root of 81. When you do that, you are going to have x plus 7 is equal to, because when you put a square root in a square, the square disappears. But you write it like this, plus or minus square root of 81 is a 9. So now what are you having? You are having x plus 7 is equal to, take the top part, plus 9. Then you solve for x. You are saying x is equal to, plus 9 is same as 9. 9 minus 7. Therefore x is equal to 2. Or x plus 7 is equal to, take the bottom part. The bottom sign is minus 9. X is equal to minus 9 minus 7. Therefore, x is equal to negative 16. So those are the two values of x. Now, let's move on to the next one. It says solve for x by completing a square. Now, we are given that. I'm going to show you another alternative method now because we are solving for x. It's similar, but it's up to you what you need to do with it. Let me start with the previous version and I'll do the other version. It says x squared minus 7x minus 8 equal to 0. I first check, can I go on straight away and solve and complete the square? The coefficient of x there is 1, which is correct. So if there is a 1 there, I can tick that as correct. There must be a 1. And my coefficient of x is negative 7. So let me solve for x. Remember, it is x squared minus 7x. You write it as it is. And then I say plus half times, what's the coefficient of x there is times minus 7. I squared half the coefficient of x, with its sign. And then I squared. After that I say minus 8. Remember, I added it. I can also subtract it as half times minus 7 squared. This is equal to 0. When I do it, simplify it, I will have x squared minus 7x. Because 2 and 7 don't divide and live without leaving a remainder, I'll just say plus minus 7 over 2 squared. You can leave it like that. Minus 8 minus 7 over 2 squared equal to 0. Remember, the aim is to solve for x. Now, when you have done that, there are your squares. Now, you write the ones with the square. So you look at x, that's the one with the square. Take with the sign minus 7 over 2. Now, the 2 now will have that as a square. And then, after that, when you've done that, minus, when you use a calculator on the two numbers, these two numbers, when you use a calculator, this is what you're going to get. Then you take it to the other side, you're going to have x minus 7 over 2 squared is equal to, you're going to get 81 over 4. I'll continue here. Remember, square rooting both sides. Square root of x minus 7 over 2 squared is equal to square root of 81 over 4. So you're going to have now x minus 7 over 2 is equal to plus or minus square root of 81 over that is 9 over 2. So you're going to have again two answers, the other one will be positive and the other one will be negative. Then you get like the previous version. I want to quickly show you the other alternative that you could have done. Remember, it's x squared minus 7x minus a. X squared minus 7x minus 8. This is the other alternative, is equal to 0. You can say x squared minus 7x. You make the 8 to jump, it will become is equal to positive 8. You do the same thing we did, x squared minus 7x plus half the coefficient of x squared like previously, but now you say equal to 8 plus negative 7 over 2 squared. When you write 7 over 2, you don't need to change the sign if you write it on the other side of the equal sign. Why? Because if it comes back and jumps this sign, it will become a negative doing the previous like version. So this one is another faster method, whereby now you have x minus 7 over 2 squared is equal to, you see now, you are already having now 81 over 4 already on the other side. Then you're going to have x minus 7 over 2, sorry about that, remember square root is equal to square root of 81 over 4. Then you continue solving it like what we did, and then you get the two answers. So your x will be equal to, when you solve it, you're going to get x is equal to 8 or x is equal to minus 1. There is another one. Say solve for x by completing a square. What they give us? They gave us 5x squared. I want you to pay attention here. Minus 6 is equal to negative 10x. Now, it is not difficult. You just need to arrange it the way you know it. How do you know it? You know it's always, the equation is always ax squared plus bx plus c. So you have going to have as 5x squared. The negative 10 will have to jump the sign to become plus 10x minus 6 is equal to 0. Now something that you're noticing is, before you complete a square, we have a problem there. That must be not be a 5, but it must be a 1. So what do you do? So you're going to divide 5x squared over 5, everything by 5, plus 10x over 5 minus 6 over 5 is equal to 0. Hence you're going to have x squared plus 2x minus 6 over 5 is equal to 0. Then when you have got a 1 there, you follow the same method of completing a square. Then you can complete a square the normal way we did, which is half the coefficient of what? Of x, which is half of that. A similar method again, if I can show you this one, it says solve for x by completing a square. They gave us minus x squared is equal to 13x minus 68. Again, remember, to complete a square, it must be ax squared plus bx plus c must be equal to 0. So you write it as it is, minus x squared, take 13 to the other side, is minus 13x. You can leave 68 on the other side, you'll have minus 68 if you follow the second version of my method. The important one are, okay, just not to confuse you for now, let me just do what I'm saying. Let's continue as the ax squared plus bx plus c, so it will be plus 68 equal to 0. Sometimes, as I said, you can write it as ax squared plus bx is equal to c or minus c in this case. Hence it will be minus x squared minus 13x is equal to minus 68. But what are you noticing? There is a sign there, and that sign is not supposed to be there. What do? You divide by negative 1 on both sides, so that you have got x squared plus 13x plus 68 is equal to plus 68. Then you can now complete a square. we have come to the end of our lesson. Thank you.